The best teenage climber in cycling history, Juan Ayuso, third in the Vuelta this year at 19 years old with some incredible climbing performances. We're going to look through this phenom's performances and why he is the best teenage climber in history. But we'll go back a year to his U23 season. This is the Colle Passerino in the Baby Giro 2021. Ben Healy was up the road. He's now on EF. We've got Vandana Biela, Johannesson in this group as well on Uno X, who's like 3 years older than Ayuso, who I think was 18 at the time. And they did this climb in the Giro d'Italia proper. We'll see in a second. And Ayuso did it 24 seconds quicker. Now, it doesn't sound like very much, and he put 50 seconds into Johannesson, but it's a 4.8K climb. It's pretty steep, but it's not that long. And he just cooked everybody on this in the Baby Giro. And it's not like they walked up it in the Giro a month before. Landa attacked, Ciccone and Bernal following. That was in the first week. But yeah, Ayuso, great climbing performance there. And he was off to UAE Emirates. One of the first races we saw him in, stage races, was Catalunya. La Molina climb, first mountaintop finish of that race. The UAE tactics weren't great. Ineos were riding for Rodriguez, and with 4 riders in the group, UAE opted to attack with Bennett. That's not Ayuso. They had Bennett, Almeida, Ayuso, Soler. And you see here Ayuso, who I think is very good in the cold, better in the cold than the heat. He's one of the only riders, apart from Sosa, with no arm warmers on, actually, in March in Catalonia near me, this was. He did a lot of work, well, I guess, attacking and futile attempts to bring things back, and he's looking, is anyone going to chase? And UAE, I got no problem with Almeida and Ayuso being leaders, or just having 2 of the 4 leaders, but you can't have 4 leaders or 4 riders not riding for a sort of joint mission. And Ben O'Connor, his move worked out perfectly. Take the leader's jersey after this stage because everyone else just attacked each other. You see Ayuso here attacking off the front, and no matter how strong you are, this ain't the juniors. You can't just ride Carapaz and Quintana off your wheel on a 5-6% climb. We saw something similar to this in the Vuelta later that year with Almeida and Soler and Ayuso, that they just didn't really pick a leader. And there's a descent in La Molina, 3Ks to go. And Soler bursts out. Instead of bringing back O'Connor, he just sits in the middle, not getting across to O'Connor, but also not pulling this group. And Ayuso is positioning himself for the sprint. So the Watts weren't spectacular on this climb at all on La Molina, and Almeida won the next stage to Boitol. But what it showed to me was Ayuso could make a lot of mistakes in doing too much work and still win the sprint at World Tour level, beating Higuita, who's no slouch. So he has, and he was angry after the finish. We saw there this guy has real punch. UAE just didn't commit to bringing back the move and lost the opportunity to win the stage. But we fast forward to La Vuelta. He did win Circuito de Getxo, his only pro win so far in a tune-up race before this in the Basque Country. And this is Picojano, stage 6, Jay Vine's first stage win. He goes up the road. He and Remco were way too strong. And this was a recurring problem for Ayuso. He did incredible watts on this stage, but you see here, that's him in the background in the sort of slouch figure in the fog. He was not in the front GC group with the main guys, Roglic, Evenepoel, Mas, O'Connor, Sivakov, when it started to get going. And Rodriguez generally in the Vuelta had better positioning, but worse watts than Ayuso. And he brings that group back, the Roglic group at least. And Ayuso ended up doing 6.3 watts per kilo at 19 years old for over 30 minutes on this climb, and was very, very strong throughout it. Maybe didn't pace it perfectly either. He attacks that Sivakov Roglic group, and he's only 18 seconds behind Evenepoel, or gets to about that distance, and then fades a little bit at the end. But still, you go and check out the article attached to this video about sort of showing his watts compared to Pogačar at 19 and 20, compared to Uijtdebroeks, who won Tour de l'Avenir, compared to Evenepoel, the man himself, at 19 years old. Ayuso consistently has produced the best climbing performances as a teenager compared to those guys. Now, maybe Evenepoel didn't get the opportunity, and Ayuso was about to turn 20, and he was sort of peaking for the Vuelta, so got the opportunity, but he proved it. And this was an important box to tick for Ayuso, who's contracted through 2028 at UAE, which is can do the huge watts for 30 minutes. That's just for a guy that's 6 foot, hugely important. And if you want to be that Tour de France contender, you need to do huge watts plus TT plus a whole lot of other things when it's Pogacar and Vingegaard involved. But here's stage 9 3 days later, which is the next sort of test, which is how do you go on a 10-minute Rampas Inhumanus Pure per kilo test? And once again, he ain't here. He's not in this group. Alaphilippe was unbelievable on this run-in, and it's a very technical run-in to Les Prairies, and he's got Evenepoel in perfect position, and Ayuso's nowhere to be found, and then it cuts back, and he's at the front. So just like maybe in Catalunya and like on Picojano 3 days before, well, he didn't have to here, but he does a big watt spike and clearly goes above what he should have gone at the start of this climb. And yeah, he was overconfident, basically attacking or pacing Remco. You see Rodriguez coming into shot here. He was a lot steadier at the start, and he started in better position. So Ayuso's come from miles back to then attack Evenepoel, and then Evenepoel, as we know, he as well went above his sort of limit in an effort to crack Mas, which worked. Mas could have probably done better on this climb. I would say that Ayuso was almost as strong as Mas on Picojano, but Mas was in the draft, and we saw the draft was so important. But Rodriguez comes back. And so Ayuso, this is what I really liked when I saw him on this climb. He's made a mistake at the start. He's been overly aggressive. He's perhaps gone over his limit, but he's able to cling on. He spends a K drafting, quote unquote drafting. There's not much draft behind Rodriguez, whilst Mas is caught and passed. And then he can, just like Pogacar, regenerate for a last 2-minute effort with a sprint or punch at the end. And when it cuts back, he's dropped Rodriguez and Mas. He puts 12, 15 seconds into them, and you see the speed with which he hits the line, just like at La Molina, compared to those two who are cooked over the line. I think for winning sprints in mountaintop finishes in small groups, or being able to gain 10 seconds or 8 seconds like that, is really important, and he's shown that ability in Sierra Nevada. How does he go to altitude on a 1-hour climb? Once again, Almeida were in bad position in the run into Hazalanas, which was the very steep start of Sierra Nevada, and this was tough for Ayuso. He spent an hour pretty much chasing that Evenepoel group, and you'd think, well, they have Marc Soler up the road, maybe he should wait for the shallow section and pace Almeida and Ayuso back to the group like Quickstep had Vivica do for Evenepoel, but that didn't happen. So unfortunately, well, luckily for him, Carapaz was pacing Rodriguez, and Almeida came back, and they got close enough. They were 5 seconds behind at points, and he probably should have sprinted across. Not here, but at this point, a little bit later, 300 meters later, you can see he's taking a drink. He probably feels okay. And then Evenepoel got on the front and dragged that gap out to another 30 seconds. So mistake there. Maybe Soler with Arensman up the road could have waited and come back for Ayuso, but it was every man for himself at UAE in the Vuelta. But you didn't see it. It wasn't shown on TV. He still dropped everyone that was in his group, Rodriguez and co. He even came past and dropped and went past Evenepoel and put 5 seconds into him. So he finishes climbs really, really strong. He did 5.7 for nearly an hour, which is a good level. And he was stage 20. He really should have won this stage. Carapaz was in the break, and then Arensman attacked late, and Ayuso actually got in the front to pull it back so that Almeida wouldn't lose GC positions, and he still ended up winning the sprint afterwards, Ayuso. So it's not just the watts for Ayuso that makes him such a dangerous rider and why I think he could podium the Tour de France next year. It's the punch at the end. It's his ability to recover quickly, even when he's gone over his limit. He's very good in cold conditions. Credit to Machin. This guy is one of the top 5 most valuable riders in cycling for the next decade. That's all from me. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you with the top 10 climbing performances of the year later in the week. Ciao.